want to thank Alan for taking all of my announcements away of all the things that were coming up. So, yeah, exactly. You said to be abbreviated, and I recognize you have a packed agenda. So, being the first speaker, I'm trying to set the tone and set the pace of staying on task. So I think we'll follow the same format that I think as usual. I'm happy to provide some updates, and then certainly turn it over to questions, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. When I was last here, I believe it was in September, October at the Candidates Forum, I said that I would love to come back after the election and come back in my new capacity as it turns out, the mayor. So I'm glad to be here. It's a little quicker than maybe I had anticipated, and so I did ask that Frank Oviedo, our assistant city manager, just be here today as well. Just because while this is my second turn on the council, it has only been about 5 months, and so what I appreciate about this group is and you're very well informed, and so you may have questions that are a little bit deeper into the weeds that if I can answer, would certainly ask Frank to do the best that he can to participate as well. But thank you, Steve. So most of you probably are aware that this is our 30th anniversary, if you will, of our city's formation, and there are still some of you here that were involved in that effort, and I think what I thought I would do is just provide just a few highlights of some of the accomplishments in these this past 30 years of Santa Clarita. For example, since formation, the city has built 34 parks, 84 miles of off-street trails, preserved nearly 9,000 acres into permanent open space. We've developed, in partnership with 3 Metrolink stations, libraries, community centers, certainly anti-drug programs, and something that I'm very much in the mix right now is the tens of thousands of kids that have gone through our youth sports programs. Actually, I won't be able to stay the entire time because I do have to go back and pick up my son at Central Park, which I appreciate Alan for having the timing, so I was able to drop him off, come back, and then I'll pick him up before the lights go out. We've had our aquatic center built, the sports complex, skate park. Just to name a few of the accomplishments. Certainly, road improvements that we have done since taking over from the county. One of the things that I just highlight too is I talk about road improvements. You may have seen recent reports that we have brought on 6 new traffic cops, traffic deputies here to add to our city force. Obviously traffic remains the number one issue, not only congestion, but certainly the driving around Santa Clarita, the aggressive driving. And anybody who's taking their kids to any one of their schools to drop off and pick up, it is somewhat surprising that how some people drive with kids in their car to a school zone, trying to get people there on time and late. So we hope that the additional resources of these additional 6 deputies will help traffic flow, will help alleviate some of, remind some of our drivers about the importance of being cautious on the roads. Just in the last several months as well, the city has picked up several awards. We were rated one of the top 20 cities in the nation to raise a family. We are the 12th happiest city in America. Forbes magazine ranked us the 4th best small city of the future, and Los Angeles County, we were named the most business-friendly city in Los Angeles County, which again is a county of 88 cities, 10 million people in Los Angeles County. It's larger than population-wise in the state of Michigan, and so those are just a few of the awards that the city's recognized just in the last probably 6 months or so. And a lot of that happens not just because of the efforts at City Hall. We have a very involved community, and you all know that because you're involved. Whether it's here, CCAC, the PTA at schools, the youth sports organizations, the arts community, the Corvette Club, the Classic Car Club. I mean, we are, you name it, people are involved. Not to mention the almost uncountable nonprofits that operate and have chapters here in Santa Clarita as well. And all of that is what makes Santa Clarita, one of the premier, cities in the country. We remain one of the safest cities in America, despite now being a city of over 200,000. We do our best to maintain that feeling of safety. And one of the things that I think leads to that is also our very active graffiti removal program. I was just at our visiting with our transit maintenance yard today, and just was talking to the graffiti removal supervisor. And just last year alone, 2016 alone, we removed over 15,000 incidents of graffiti in the city. And almost all of those are done within 24 hours. I encourage, if you don't have it, we have an app that you can put on your phone to report the graffiti, and that is something that our team sees right away. We also have that for potholes. If you see a pothole or drive one, you can report it to the city. And again, we endeavor to have as close to a 24-hour turnaround rate as we can. Certainly, that got slowed down a little bit when we had all the storms. We had over 300 potholes filled and called in during the last 2 big storms we had here, and our crews were out there, in the rain at night, filling them up, trying to be responsive. And I think there's many of you probably remember the book, kind of The Tipping Point, and Mayor Giuliani kind of had that the kind of the broken window theory of keeping cities clean, and once cities stop repairing broken windows or graffiti, or potholes, you're kind of getting past that tipping point. And so we take that very seriously. And so if you see instances of that, we want that to be reported, obviously, as quickly as possible, and we'll get our crews out there as soon as possible. I think just a few other numbers that I'll throw out at you. Unemployment in the city is down to 4.7% as of January, which is an improvement from was 5.5 January of 2016. We continue to be a magnet for filming. Most of you, I'm sure, are aware that we have our own branded show, the Santa Clarita Diet, which again is an interesting take. People has had mixed reviews, on people's perception of that. My personal feeling is, at least they filmed it here in Santa Clarita. If they're going to call it Santa Clarita Diet, we might as well get the revenue for it. And they have signed up for a season 2. Netflix has agreed to a season 2 of Santa Clarita Diet. Just a few other shows that are filmed out here. NCIS, which remains the #1 series on television. Ballers was a show on HBO starring The Rock or Dwayne Johnson. Shooter, another popular show starring Ryan Phillippe. And Westworld, which is another HBO show, which Westworld is the reason primarily why the Cowboy Festival is no longer at Melody Ranch, because they're using that for filming, and why it's been moved there. A few other movies that have been recently filmed here. One is called A Wrinkle in Time. If you are kind of my generation, we all read that book in 5th grade. And so I know, Alan, we're a different generation, so Alan probably didn't read that one. But, again, that's a book based on the book, $100 million budget Disney production. La La Land, that was Academy Award nominee, had film here. Nocturnal Animals, Hail Caesar with George Clooney, I believe was filmed out here as well. So, and you guys know, how many times you'd see a commercial and, oh, it's COC, or oh, that that's that's the mall, or you see a lot of that going. And I think it's also important to know that we have a very responsive film office, and sometimes the filming, the crews don't follow their rules and follow the regulations, and so it's important to provide that feedback. I mean, we, as much as we enjoy the filming here, we want to make sure that they are good neighbors and that they are treating our streets, our community, as they should. And in fact, there's a production being filmed right next door to my house. It's going to be going until 3 a.m. And I did, when the guy came by, for neighbors have to sign off to give the okay. And when the scout production guy came by and told me what they were doing, I said, well, I just think, in full disclosure, I'm the mayor, so this is probably not one you want to screw up. So we will see tonight at 3 a.m. if they're still, the filming is inside in our neighbor's home at that time. But still, that's still a big part of our job and our workforce is the entertainment industry. Thanks to some work from the legislature, they've helped to bring film tax credits back, so trying to keep some of those jobs here in California. When I was in the legislature, one of the examples we gave is the movie Battle Los Angeles was filmed in Toronto, and yet it was, because they couldn't afford to film it here in Los Angeles, even though it was called Battle Los Angeles. And I thought, that, so it's important that we can continue to keep those jobs here, keep the economy growing, and certainly Santa Clarita wants to be responsive to that. Specifically to your area, here, again, what I was saying earlier, Ken and I were talking a little bit about, with this group, it's, I appreciate coming here because I don't, we can get a little bit more in depth because, being here, you guys are kept up to date on a lot of city issues. And so, that you drive by, the city's working on the community center, here, that's going to be, a great, I think, kind of a landmark facility that we're going to have, that we'll end up putting here and giving Canyon Country a community center that it deserves. It's 6.5 acres, and still we're kind of in the design and property negotiation phase. I mean, that's, we have to purchase the property or all of it, so we're in that phase. Just anecdotally, you've heard, I'm sure heard in the paper as well, that we're moving forward with a Saugus library facility and looking for sites there. But I want to say, kind of, library, it still is a library, but the way I view it is libraries are different now from the ones that you use, that we used. And so what I'm hoping as we design this, and hearing from what people want in their library, that it's going to be more than just kind of what you think of, and that there's going to be meeting space, there's going to be technology area, there's going to be art, space for art classes, dance classes, and really be more of a community type facility that still has a component of a library. But I just want you to kind of start thinking, when you hear Saugus Library, that it's not necessarily going to be the Joanne Darcy Library or the Newhall Library, that we're looking to be more creative, more forward thinking, and more adaptive to what libraries should be and what the services people need. As you know, Vista Canyon is being has been approved and is moving through some grading. We've got the new sheriff station as well has been approved. So that's again moving forward with that. We have the Fire Station 104 will also move to a new permanent location on Golden Valley and Newhall Ranch Road. They'll also that's the new sheriff station will be over 44,000 square feet. I was just touring our existing station today, and I mean, it really has not changed since it opened in 1972. I mean, it has that Brady Bunch era feel to it, and we certainly need to have an improved facility. We just had a new captain appointed, Robert Lewis, who is a Santa Clarita guy, and so I think that's important as we look to the type of support and policing that we need here in Santa Clarita, having someone who's from here, raising his family here as well. We've got several new hotel projects in the works, going through the Planning Commission. We have Sand Canyon Plaza as well that is beginning its initial phases in the Planning Commission as well. So there's a lot going on. Development has started to pick up as the economy has picked up. A lot of projects that were approved mostly in the county and were approved well over a decade ago. Everything kind of was brought to a stop in 07, 08. You're starting to see those picking up. You see more permits being pulled at City Hall. More visits to our planning staff, our engineering staff, working on whether or not these projects are still viable. Do they need to be tweaked? So a lot of that is picking up. So it is signs that the economy is moving forward, and certainly Santa Clarita is a part of that. And so, like I said, those are just kind of some high level stats that I wanted to throw at you. Give you a quick update on some things that are going on. But I do, in the interest of time, you have other speakers. I would be happy to take as many questions as time permits and do my best to answer them as I can. So, Mr. Dean, Ken, hold on. I think we got to wait for the mic, but yeah.
Actually, I don't have a question. Can you hear me? I don't have a question. I just have a comment about something I think everybody might enjoy. About 2 weeks ago, I had a big problem with AT&T. Instead of going through the bureaucratic process, I filed a complaint with the FCC, who in return went to the president of AT&T's office, who in turn had somebody from Texas call me, and while we were talking, they wanted my address. So I gave them my address, and I said the city of Santa Clarita, and the girl said, "Oh yeah, I watch your TV show." This is true.
It is. In my, it's funny as you say. In my private life, I travel to other states, and and they do ask, "Is that where you live? Is that the same?" So it is something that kind of puts us on the map a little bit. So.
Hi, new to the group, but hello, my name's Jeannie. I just have a question. As all the stats are wonderful, and I love living here in Santa Clarita, I was wondering, what's Santa Clarita's initiative to get more businesses out here? As we talk about jobs and expansion and congestion, what is Santa Clarita's
right? So beyond the filming industry, I'll go back one more stat. When I was on the council before, we did a poll, and the poll came back that said roughly 80% of the people who commute would take a 10% pay cut to have a job here in town. And as someone who has to drive to Long Beach a couple times several times a month, I certainly can appreciate that feeling. So one of the things is we, beyond just your traditional Chamber of Commerce or industrial associations, we've partnered and created a Economic Development Corporation, the EDC it's called. And really the mission of the EDC is to go out and recruit new businesses, corporate headquarters, those types to relocate here in Santa Clarita. And so that's kind of a big part of what we do. And the city participates financially in that. We participate in recruitment meetings, whether it's someone from our staff or someone on the council, when we're meeting with CEOs or others that are looking to relocate, to really try to show what we have to offer here and the benefits of relocating here. I think it's also important that we recognize the types of businesses we want to recruit, right? Because the workforce is different than it has been, and the kids that are coming out of school, the people who are looking for jobs are looking for different things than maybe even when I was coming out or some of you. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at those type of businesses that are kind of the future, whether it's tech or continual of bio, those type of jobs to bring them here. Unfortunately, in California, most manufacturing has left the state because of environmental regulations, other governmental pressures. So, we're looking at corporate headquarters, folks that want to do that and can bring bring those type of jobs here. So, yeah, definitely important. Yes. Hey, Ed. I understand. I know your accent well. No worries.
I would like to know. I would like to see more senior housing in Santa Clarita. How could we achieve this goal for people who have been living long in our city and need to retire here? Naturally, I'm speaking about affordable housing for seniors who live on a fixed budget.
Yeah. So that certainly is an important component of our development projects. I'm a perfect example that my parents, my mom, still lives in the same house that I grew up in. It is eventually going to be too big for her, and we currently live around the corner, and we certainly want to stay, be one of those multi-generational families with my mom, my wife and I and our kids all being able to stay close. And so one of the things that we can do, state law allows for municipalities or cities or counties to require developers set aside a percentage of their projects, for affordable housing, and so that is something that we now have as our in our toolbox, so to speak, as projects are coming through. And I think it's also important, and forgive me, I'm going to get on a little tangent here, but it's about a little bit about branding too, and what is affordable housing. I think people know, hey, seniors, veterans, people are willing to do that with Habitat and others. But we're also looking at how are we going to handle issues with our homeless population, which is growing here in Santa Clarita. And one of the things we talked about at our first committee hearing is, homeless in Santa Clarita is different than the homeless population in the Antelope Valley or the San Fernando Valley. And many of those folks are families. And we want to see, is housing going to be a component of solving the homeless issue? And is there affordable housing options there? So I think it's a bigger policy issue that we need to tackle as we look at future development projects, that affordable housing needs to be a component of that, whether it be senior, veteran, starter families, teachers, however we want to kick that off. But it is important, again, for me, who wants to make sure that my mom is able to stay here in Santa Clarita and the community that she raised, my brother and I, and where I'm raising my family. So we do have that new state regulation that allows the city to be a little bit more aggressive on that.
Question.
Sure.
Do you know if Santa Clarita is going to get some money from Measure H?
So Measure H, and I know Alan will talk a little bit more about that. That was also, again, part of our committee kickoff, and I think we're still working. The county is still developing how those dollars are going to be distributed. But the top priority of the homeless committee that we have created at the city is to make sure that we fight for every possible Measure H dollar that we can get, however they choose to allocate it, whether it be through programs, whether it be they're going to want to do it just by cities, whatever mechanism the county comes up with, we want to make sure that we're at the forefront of that allocation. I know there was some reports about how the county has started there is a advisory panel on Measure H, and that Santa Clarita doesn't have a representative on that. But I'm not overly concerned about that because I think ultimately the allocation is still going to be dictated a lot by the Board of Supervisors, as opposed to a 30-person panel. I think the Board of Supervisors is still going to be a key role in that. So we want to make sure that that our supervisor knows that we're doing that we have programs in place. We want to fight for those dollars. Now, that being said, I oppose Measure H, and not because I didn't see that we have a homeless issue in Santa Clarita or that we should look to solve it, but I've been around long enough to that we've seen how many millions or billions of dollars in taxes have been put upon California residents, LA County residents, where we don't see that return. And a $3 billion sales tax increase is pretty aggressive. And I just have concerns that a lot of that money is going to be eaten up by the bureaucracy at LA County. And so that being said, I want to make sure that, okay, Santa Clarita is going to be paying, a big chunk. We want to make sure that we have programs in place so we can get some of that back.
If you need some help, please.
Yeah, we absolutely.
I'm not speaking about myself, but I know a lot of people are willing to help because a lot of people have been very naive to vote yes on
and
Measure A.
particularly when you just, all the measures that you had just in November, with, there was a county roads tax, a parks tax, and now we have Measure H. As you all know, the state legislature just, passed, $50-some billion gas tax, that eventually it becomes, pretty untenable, for just people to be able to afford.
There is nothing to do with the city of Santa Clarita. But if we want to know how this money is spent in the state, how can we do that?
So you mean like kind of the gas tax? Yeah, money, right. So, again, the assertion is there will be oversight. Again, I'm not convinced of that. I think that's where our state legislators need to play a big role, whether it be Assemblymember Acosta, Senator Wilk, Senator Stern. They need to play a big role in monitoring those dollars. We already have a gas tax. We already had the gas tax, the first one, and all that did was backfill the general fund. The state. I mean, everybody talks about the lottery and why is that money going to education? Because all that did was backfill. The legislature just said, "Great, we have X amount of dollars coming from the lottery. We'll just take this much out of the general fund, spend it somewhere else, and backfill it with the lottery money." It didn't go to anything new. And I would have been more supportive of the original gas tax, which was passed by the voters, if they had said, "We're going to put it in a separate fund, and it will go strictly for road improvements versus just being eaten into the general fund in California."
Is the budget available to citizens? As a citizen, can I ask?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And nobody can say no.
They can say no, but ultimately they're going to they have to give it up, right? It's public record, so ultimately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Earlier you mentioned the senior center going here in Canyon Country. How can the citizens put more input into that? Is there a person at the city that has a control,
Sure.
or is it like a council committee?
Right. I think for the senior center, I don't believe it's been through any of the planning processes yet. Yeah. So it's still, I think it still has the full process to go. So it'll still go through the planning commission. It'll come to the city council. So there will be again the full public review period for comments and input on on amenities, designs, concerns that you have to go along with that. So yeah, once that gets going, it'll be a full public process.
So there's no architectural drawing of the plans yet, or anything?
Not that I have seen.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
No, sure. Ed, hold on a second to get the.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Ray. I've got a couple of questions. First one is, from 2014 up, does anyone knows the amount of increase on homeless? What's the percentage? And what is it 2016? And my last question is, isn't there a law that prohibits the state of California of spending money, of gas money that is actually supposed to be to go out and repair roads on any other measures other than fixing the roads?
So first question, it's interesting with the homeless count. We did a big, we did the big kind of community count, which showed a. Do you remember? I remember the raw number. Yeah, it was a pretty small, so I'm going to say maybe 10% increase from 14 to now, which again but then when you go to raw numbers, it's it's maybe a dozen. But then you talk to the providers, right? Whether Bridge to Home, Family Promise, Bridge to Home will tell you that they saw over 450, I believe, individual people come through their shelter this winter. So that would tell you that there's 100 plus more that have been, than the count. So the count is kind of a baseline, because you're obviously not going to get everybody, people who are, if they're in their cars or, they're, obviously people are moving around. So there is an increase. It's not significant. It's not, but it is enough to notice that that the issue is growing, and it's something that we need to address here. Right. So regarding your second question about money being spent where it's directed, again, proposition-wise, sometimes that can be put in the language of the proposition, directing that. But this measure was just passed by the legislature. It was not a proposition, not a voter-passed initiative. So I don't know if the language actually says that. Sure, they'll tell you it's going to be spent, on those programs. But again, we've heard that before, and something that's passed by the legislature, they can change it. You can amend the bill. If the economy falls apart in 2 years, and they need this additional money to backfill something, they can run a bill to reallocate those dollars, reappropriate those dollars. So that's why it's always very I appreciate that our legislators voted no. I certainly would have opposed that if it had come up when I was in the legislature as well. So it's, you hope, but I don't know. And I've seen this before where several legislators cut deals. That's kind of the big thing. They cut a deal with the governor to get their proposal, to get their vote. But I've seen time and time again, you make that deal, and somehow magically that money doesn't appear, and so it's a very real game of chicken in some cases. So we're going to have to watch that closely.
Yeah, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
We've got great things in store for you.
I'll go for boring. I think if things are boring, I'm doing a good job. So.
You won't have to necessarily answer the suggestions I'm making tonight unless you wish to, but I did want to say those of us that helped form this city realize what few benefits we had under the county. We're all paying the same taxes. A lot of the residents aren't aware that we're still paying the same taxes to the county, but the city is providing all these benefits. Our roads became 4-lane roads instead of 2-lane roads, and we have our aquatic center and all these other benefits that have come out of that, and our parks, and that's a wonderful thing. What we'd like to see the city take hold of now and get involved with is our recycled water. We pay dearly for that recycled water. We pay every cent to get the water here, every cent to process it, every cent to transport it, and we have a rogue agency that's taking it for the benefit of a private corporation and a big planned city west of our area and outside of our city. In fact, they have taken the first recycled water available outside of our city, the other side of I-5, to the private corporation's golf course and their development, and they're planning on doing more of that. We compare it with Lancaster. We moved from Antelope Valley down here. We have family up there. My wife's folks pioneered that place up there. And the city, together with the water companies and with the wholesale water outfit, have developed a beautiful recycled water system. All the north-south streets and east-west streets got purple hydrants. You don't even have to fight fires with drinking water. And we have the pipes in the ground here right now for recycled water to go to the east side. And it's formerly used freshwater pipes. And we'd like to see the city get involved, take hands-on, that the recycled water that's being developed and paid for in this city stays in this city, doesn't go west of I-5
Sure.
and all those other places. So we'd like to see you really look into that and see what can be done. And also, the city has been required by the same rogue agency to use drinking water on our Central Park for irrigation. Everybody that used that property, farmers, etc., before, were allowed to use the 2 ag wells, and they could pump water for maybe $100 an acre foot. The rogue agency is charging the city over $1,000 an acre foot for drinking water on that park, and has been since that park was open. And the city ought to see that that's put to a stop, and use the recycled water on the park, or use the ag wells, or use raw state water down the hill, right from the lake, without a pump. Yeah, and well, these are suggestions
Sure.
I'm making. I'd like him to
I
take a look at.
I appreciate that. I think we are under a mandate by state law to be part of this groundwater GRC. I think I'm trying to be an acronym. And so the city is a part of that now, and we'll be discussing, I think, our first meeting in May, who we're going to put as a delegate to that with the water agencies.
Right, and in closing, I'd like to mention that state, as you mentioned, the state mandate. They have a mandate. If you have the recycled water and you have the uses for it, you are mandated to use it for that, and that's not happening here.
Right.
The rogue agency is in violation.
No, and I think absolutely the recycled water is a big component of that. And so I know, Alan, I've totally blown my effort to try to keep things under wrap, and we've got a lot of other speakers. And I said this before, when I was here during the campaign. I really, I enjoy coming here. I enjoy the questions, the educated questions, that I get from CCAC. And so I'm happy to come back anytime, that Alan asks or that there's questions to give you guys updates about what's going on. And so thank you for giving me some time. Thank you for the questions. Thank you. Frank, thanks you that I was able to answer most of the questions. And so he didn't get put on the spot. He wore a tie and everything. And so again, I appreciate that. And if you have other questions, please feel free to reach out. I am through either the city, through the website, any forms, any social media platform, you can track me down, and I will do my best to respond and to get your questions answered. May not always like the answer, but I will give you the answer as honestly as I can. So thank you guys very much, and I'll let you get on with the program.